Hi, I'm Michael Sinoff, founder and CEO of HardToFindSeminars.com. For the last 5 years, I've interviewed the world's best business and marketing minds. Now my challenge is to build the world's largest free resource for online, downloadable audio business interviews. I've learned a lot in the last 5 years, and today I'm going to show you the skills you need to survive.
That's the way this company that's going down the tubes is trying to sell a $25,000 automobile.
That's unbelievable.
What do you think Claude Hopkins would have to say about that?
I don't think he'd be happy.
What do you think John Caples would have to say about that? What would anybody that knew anything about selling anything say about that? I'm telling you, Michael, the advertising, except for the direct response advertiser, is just absolutely a wasteland, which presents an incredible opportunity for students of advertising that will master the time-tested, proven techniques and update them for whatever it is they're selling today. They have an enormous edge because nobody knows what they're doing.
Well stated.
If you get this course and study it, you will know more about what makes advertising sell, and how you can make your advertising sell and bring you more money for less cost consistently than anybody else in your field or in your community. And that's because the course was written by a master student of advertising that accessed millions upon millions of dollars worth of results-tested advertising, compiled the common denominators into a system that takes you step by step from how to think about advertising before you even start the ad, right down to the final pitch to get the money. You have it all right there, and it's authoritative. It's not available anyplace else, although there are many other advertising books and so on that are useful, but nowhere else is an entire proven, tested system laid out for you step by step that will enable you to turn your, what would normally be an advertising expense, into a money-generating power.
Hi, this is Michael Sinoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. Hold on to your hat, because this is the second in a series of interviews with Barry Badell, the son of master advertising copywriter and consultant Clyde Badell. In this recording, we're going to explore detail of Clyde Badell's life, from his early beginnings all the way up through his career until the time he passed away. So this part of the recording is going to offer you absolute proof of this man's credentials, absolute proof of the awards he won over all the years, absolute proof that this man was considered one of the all-time greatest advertising geniuses of all time. Listen in as I explore the history of Barry's father, Clyde Badell. Enjoy.
Well, I want to get into a little bit about the history of you and your father, and I want to start building some credibility with your father. So a lot of people who have no idea who he is. So let me just start with this question. Barry, was your dad a genius at this advertising game, or is it something he worked hard at?
Well, he would probably not want to be called a genius, but the answer is yes and yes. He clearly was, in my opinion, and that of many others, an advertising genius, and he also worked like the very devil. So he was an extremely energetic and productive, hard-working individual.
Where did you guys grow up? Where were you born?
I was born in Evanston, Illinois, suburb of Chicago. Grew up along the North Shore, and then from around 6th grade on in Park Ridge, northwest suburb.
Would you know what your dad was like as a young man?
Oh, yeah.
Where did all this influence come? What was your grandfather like?
Well, his father had died when he was about 14, and he actually became the support of his mother and sister as a teenager. So I never knew my grandfather on that side. On my mother's side, my grandfather was an entrepreneurial kind of a guy who had made a lot of money, lost every bit of it in the Depression. In fact, it had gotten so bad that my dad was having to subsidize my grandparents on that side for a while. But then my grandfather came back real strong, and one of the prized possessions that my father had, and that I now have, is a set of the 1911 classic leather-bound Encyclopedia Britannicas, considered the finest information source on things at the time it was published of anything even in existence today. And my grandfather educated himself by reading that encyclopedia.
Wow.
So when he passed, it went on to my dad, and I now have it. But basically, my mother came from a family, had 6 brothers, and was the only girl.
Mm-hmm.
My father had the one sister.
Okay. So as a young man, he was quite energetic, and your grandfather dying when Clyde was 14, being forced into that role where he had to get off his butt and get moving, do you think that had a lot of influence in his early days?
Of course. Back then, he had jobs before and after school, and, of course, in the summer. If you want to know another story that illustrates a principle we all can use today, he got a scholarship to Coe College in Iowa, a small liberal arts college, and somehow ended up in his freshman year taking the men's glee club on tour. It was very successful. And then the head of the girls' glee club said, well, gee, would you take our glee club on tour? So he ended up taking the girls' glee club on tour as a freshman. Well, I don't need to tell you that his grades suffered. His scholarship was not renewed, and so at 18 or 19, he was out in the world with 1 year of college and on his own. He went to Des Moines, the big city in Iowa, and he was sitting at the lunch counter having a bowl of beans and wondering, God, what the heck am I going to do? I've got to get a job. And he heard 2 fellows next to him talking about a job that they knew about, and one of them was going to go and have an interview. My dad, overhearing this, thought, gee, that sounds pretty interesting. He wolfed down the rest of his beans and got right over to the place where that interview was going on and got hired. As we know, nothing happens until we take action. So he acted. He was a man of action. And the job was as traveling editor for the Merchants Trade Journal, a trade publication for retailers. And so he was traveling around the country, and his job was to go into successful retail businesses, a variety of different kinds, and interview the proprietor and found out what was working and all of that, and then write it up and submit it to this magazine. There is the foundation.
So how many years was he doing this?
Not a whole lot. The main thing is, of course, many advertisers even forget to ask for any action in their ads, which is foolish. Sometimes we end our ads saying, obey that impulse, respond now. Well, he obeyed the impulse to wolf down his beans and go get that job. So taking action is the core principle of success in advertising and selling and in life, I believe. From there, next thing, he was with an advertising agency in Galveston, Texas. And there, chiropractic was just really getting going then, and they didn't have a very good reputation. People didn't understand it. And he sold the Association of Chiropractors, the Chiropractic Association, that they ought to tell their story in a national magazine. And so they said, that sounds like a good idea, but how are we going to do that? We don't have any money. He says, well, I can get you the money. So he developed a program that was mailed to all the chiropractors that were members of the association and said, let's pony up, fellas, and then we'll write some ads and we'll run them in the Saturday Evening Post.
Do some co-op advertising.
Yeah, the chiropractors were paying for it, the association. And that turned out to be the first kind of therapeutic advertising ever done in the media in the United States. Then he moved on and interesting accounts and ended up in San Francisco with a leading advertising agency at the time called Honig Cooper, working on regional and national accounts. One of the accounts that was most interesting was the Californians Incorporated.
Hi, it's Michael Senoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching this video. You know, many of my interviews last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes even up to 2.5 hours long. They're actual mini seminars, and you've just listened to a short sample of just one of over 117 hours of exciting, hard-hitting, mind-blowing interviews on how to make money in direct mail, advertising, copywriting. I assure you, there is not a resource anywhere anywhere on the internet or on the planet that comes close to the free information I provide at hardtofindseminars.com. So go right now to hardtofindseminars.com and you'll have free access to 117 hours of audio interviews with typed word-for-word downloadable transcripts and downloadable MP3 files. Please browse some more of the videos or go right directly to hardtofindseminars.com. Thanks for watching.